From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Friday, July the 24th, 2020. We open with tensions on Israel's northern border. Tension began climbing earlier this week when Lebanese-based Iranian-backed terror group Hezbollah accused Israel of killing one of its members in an airstrike in Syria, which Israel has not commented on, prompting the IDF to go on high alert in the event of retaliation. And last night, the IDF tweeted that in accordance with a recently conducted situational assessment, we have decided to reinforce the Northern Command with select infantry forces. Today, the IDF shared that explosions were heard adjacent to the security fence from the Syrian side of Israel's northern border, and that damage to a civilian building and an Israeli vehicle was likely caused by fragments. Later today, tweeting that the IDF is elevating its readiness to defend Israel's northern border from all enemy threats with changes to troop deployment and enhanced field intelligence activity in the area, adding that the Israeli army holds the Lebanese government responsible for all actions emanating from Lebanon. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu denied claims that he was hoping for another round of elections in the country. As we reported to you yesterday, a report in Haaretz claimed that the Prime Minister had decided to not pass the state budget by its deadline next month, which would cause elections in November. During a press conference last night to introduce the new Corona Task Force leader, Ronnie Gamzu, Netanyahu said, "I'm not aiming for early elections. That's absurd. We are in the midst of the coronavirus crisis. We have to deal with it. We also have to pass a budget," he said. "It can pass in a minute or a very short time." But Netanyahu added that the only reason we would go to elections would be if we don't pass the budget. We have until, he said, August the 24th. If you pass the budget, the Prime Minister said, there are no elections, and it's not passed already because my partners are refusing to do so, in what seemed to be a reference to Defense Minister and alternate Prime Minister Benny Gantz and others. More response today to the conviction and sentencing yesterday of former Nazi guard Bruno Day. As we reported to you, a German court handed Day a 2-year suspended sentence for complicity in the murder of 5,232 people at the Stutthof concentration camp in Poland during the Holocaust. President of the World Jewish Congress, Ronald Lauder, called the conviction a small slice of justice. Lauder said the Hamburg Juvenile Court has ruled that the heinous inhumanity shown by Bruno Day as a Nazi guard so many decades ago will not be allowed to go unpunished. Nazi hunter and head of the Simon Wiesenthal Center's Jerusalem office, Ephraim Zuroff, criticized the suspended sentence, speaking in an interview with DW Berlin.
Well, we, of course, welcome his conviction, but we are utterly disappointed by the suspension of his punishment. And we think this sends a definitely wrong message to society and is an insult to the survivors and their families.
He told the Times of Israel that while none of the people convicted of Nazi crimes in recent years spent any time behind bars because of their advanced ages, the pursuit of justice must continue. And Zuroff tweeted after the verdict that there are still dozens of investigations like Day's underway. An Israeli Arab business owner was recently boycotted by a number of extremist Arab groups because she donated to an Israeli gay rights group. Julia Zohar is an Arab citizen of Israel. She is the owner of Tahini Al-Arz, one of Israel's most popular brands of tahina. In response to her story, former consul for public diplomacy in New York, Galit Peleg, spearheaded an initiative to help Zohar, with Israeli diplomats purchasing 600 packages of her product, some of which will be kept by the staff of the foreign ministry in Israel, with the rest being sent to diplomats abroad, including here in the U.S. Peleg called Zohar a role model for female entrepreneurs and a breakthrough for businesswomen in the Arab society. She said, "I wanted to express my support towards this courageous woman who leads by example." Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Friday, July the 24th. Live Shabbat services are coming up at 6 o'clock from New York City's Central Synagogue, followed by Kabbalat Shabbat services from the Hampton Synagogue. At 8 o'clock, we hear from Mandy Patinkin at the 92nd Street Y. At 9, it's the film A Blind Hero, which tells of the righteous Gentile Otto White's daring rescue of his blind and deaf Jewish employees from being sent to the death camps. Then it's a replay of the Hampton Synagogue services, followed by a replay of the Central Synagogue services. And coming up next, a look at this week's Torah portion, and then Mark Golub hosts Together During COVID-19. And that's the JBS News Update for Friday, July the 24th, 2020. I'm Teisha Bader. Stay healthy, stay well. Shabbat Shalom.